Is it time for a hard reboot if we want Stargate to come back at all? Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So Roland Emmerich was at San Diego Comic-Con and he was asked about Stargate. And his answer was a little confusing because basically he said, look, Stargate is a really complicated IP, lots of people own it, and I just gave up trying to bring it back. Now, previously, a couple of years ago, he said something a little bit different when asked a similar question. He basically said, I don't want to be involved in Stargate because Amazon are only interested in the TV audience and I'm interested in the cinematic audience. Now, from that, we took that he meant what we kind of knew from the people that we get to speak to here at SciTrek, that actually what Amazon were trying to do was a continuation of SG1, SGA, and SGU. They did not want to do a hard reboot. And they've been trying for 2 years now to actually figure out how to do that moving forwards. But what is Roland Emmerich talking about when he says it's a complicated IP that lots of people own? Well, for one, it's not really true. MGM own the rights, the cinematic and the TV rights to Stargate. They just do. Or within their, stable of companies anyway. MGM and Amazon own it. There's no other people that own it. But there is a slight issue. And this is related actually to what I'm talking about with Star Trek at the moment, that if Paramount wanted to remove Secret Hideout, it would mean that the chances are they wouldn't be able to move forwards with things like Strange New Worlds the same way as they would do if they could just carried on with Secret Hideout. So it actually makes it more likely that Secret Hideout will get a contract just to complete certain shows, or an extension of their existing contract, and can't just be kicked out. Why is that? Well, anything that Secret Hideout does under the umbrella of the Star Trek IP that is original to them, they technically own. Now, it's a bit funny because basically, Secret Hideout can't use it without Paramount, but Paramount can't kind of use some of that stuff without Secret Hideout. It's a similar sort of thing with Stargate, that anything that Brad Wright, Robert Cooper, etc. created that was original and different from the original IP, they sort of own in a way. They can't ever do anything with it, but they kind of own it. Now, that's not quite accurate. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but for the terms of what we're talking about, let's go with that. So, this is why, though, you see in lots of reboots or new series, etc., that people that were involved in the previous series or previous movie, blah, 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 sometimes get like executive producer roles or consultant roles and things like this on the credits. They never actually do anything for the show, but they get a pay packet and their opinion is asked for. So that would possibly happen in this case, that people that were involved in SG1, SGU, SGA would be sort of brought back and given these sort of like titles. All that Amazon and MGM really have to do is ask their opinion or ask for their input. They don't actually have to give them a real job. And the other thing is, if they ask and the person involved says no, then Amazon can move forwards because, they've done their bit. The situation with Roland Emmerich is slightly different though, because he is actually contracted by MGM that if they do a cinematic movie of Stargate, that he has to be involved. He's contracted and MGM are contracted. It's a bit. Roland Emmerich doesn't really want to do it, and it does sound like, I think it would be relatively easy basically just to, remove that contract. Say, well, look, you don't want to do it, we don't want to do it, sign this, done. But it is a little bit different to the situation with the TV series and using things like, I saw a Gate World story about this and they've got it 100% bang on. Things like a Zap gun or anything like that, things that actually were created by the series people that wasn't in the movie, is a little bit of a grey area. So if Samantha Carter wanted to come back to this continuation, then MGM and Amazon would have to resolve this issue. Now, I've always been told it wouldn't be an issue and not something that was ever really worried about too much. But Amazon have been trying to do a continuation for 2 years. And I actually think that's what Roland Emmerich is talking about here. He doesn't mean that it's owned by lots and lots of people, so that's a problem for the studio. He means it's owned by lots and lots of people, and that's a problem for him. He doesn't necessarily want to have to work with all these other creators. He's shown that before because he didn't want to work with the TV creators when they rebooted the series. Even though Brad Wright, Robert Cooper actually did put a hand out to him and said, we'd love to work with you in some level. He refused. Dean Devlin did as well, even though Dean Devlin is probably not as difficult as Roland Emmerich can be. But I don't know, no, I'm making it sound like I'm having a go at Roland Emmerich there. I'm not. He's just a creator and he likes to do stuff that he actually wants to do. He's not really a team player on that. He has a vision and he wants to complete his vision. And if he can't, he loses interest a little bit. I can kind of understand that. But anyway, so the problem is for Roland Emmerich that there'd be Amazon and MGM were pushing him to maybe be involved in a continuation, but that continuation meant he would be involved with other creators from SG1, SGU, and SGA. And that means that's why he's saying 2 years ago, Amazon are only interested in the TV audience, and why he's now saying it's complicated and I gave up. Now, I've always been told that the movie that they were planning, and that looks like they might be turning around back to, that was planned out by the guys that gave us The Expanse, Hawk Ostby and Mark Fergus, that is back on the cards again now. Actually, I've heard some rumours that Mark Ferguson might actually be back involved, but again, very tentative. So, if we do go back to the movie, I was always told that it would be a stand-alone film. And by that, it was explained to me that it would exist within the universe of SG1, SGU, and SGA, but wouldn't necessarily have any of the main actors from it. It would be a relatively small storyline within the universe. Something that anybody could come and watch, but, as I said, wouldn't necessarily be a continuation. That would then, hopefully, if it was successful, spawn a TV series. And that's why you probably wouldn't see major A-list actors in the original movie, because hopefully some of them would then go on to appear in the series. I was always told that was the plan. So we can maybe assume that that's still the plan. We're not sure. However, something else I was always told rings in the back of my head all the time. And I was basically told that if we hadn't heard anything by the spring of 2024, and I don't know if you've noticed, but it's now summer here in Britain. Feels more like spring or autumn, but apparently it's summer. That if we hadn't heard anything by the spring of this year, that a hard reboot was probably the most likely outcome. And I've got to say, the reasoning for that was a couple of things. For one, they basically argued that Amazon had set this deadline, that they basically said, look, we want to do a continuation, we'd love to do a continuation, but you need to tell us how. You need to give us a good story, you need to give us some good scripts, you need to give us an idea of how to reboot this. You need to get over some of the issues that we've talked about in SciTrek several times, about how, like, by the end of SG1, we were kicking God's arses on a regular basis. Our technology was, Asgardian. And how do we resolve those issues? Because we still want it to feel like Stargate. If you can resolve these issues, great. But if you can't, then, this is the cut-off point. And remember, these are people that are not necessarily big fans of Stargate. They're not there going, desperately thinking, I really want to see O'Neill back on the screen. They're business people. They look at an IP that goes, this is a popular IP, this is great. They look at the numbers and the figures and they go, look, the fans want a continuation. Right, okay, well, let's try. They spend 2 years trying, and then at some point, those businessmen are going, you know what, we've got a very expensive franchise here. We want to use it. Your plans are crap. We're just going to hard reboot it. Bring in somebody that can create a new story, a new movie, a new series, and let's just go. There are problems with a continuation. There are challenges. And if Amazon aren't happy and haven't been able to overcome those challenges, then yeah, a hard reboot becomes more and more likely. What is the guy over at MGM Plus telling me? Well, it hasn't really changed for the last few months. He is saying there is a series holding with MGM Plus that they want to do. It's being held by a third party who are working on it, and he doesn't know what's going on. It's above his pay grade, even though he is supposed to be involved in it. So, again, it feels like we're treading water a little bit. I was always told that Amazon's biggest problem was studio space. They're getting a load of their own new studio space coming online starting from the summer of this year. That would give them much more capacity to produce their own stuff, which is something they really wanted to do with Stargate. So again, we may just be waiting on that. And coupled with the delays caused actually by the strikes, it means that maybe Stargate will be pushed down the road a little bit so they can complete stuff they were supposed to have completed, already. That might delay things a little bit, and might be why we haven't had an official announcement yet. But all of these things really just mean that it's still coming, it's just delayed. Annoyingly. But guys, get to the comments and tell me what you think. Would a hard reboot at least give us some Stargate? And at least give us the opportunity of something new that we could love? If it's that or nothing, wouldn't we just prefer that? If it's no good, we won't watch it, and we can still go back and watch SG-1 and SG Atlantis and everything. It wouldn't hurt the original franchise, but at least we'd get something. And I'd love for you guys to get into the comments and, how would you resolve the issue, as I said, with SG-1, by the end of SG-1, the spaceships and the Asgardian technology, etc., etc. How do you make that still feel like Stargate? It's not massively easy. But get into the comments and tell me what you do. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, and that bell notification will help us out. You'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can go to patreon.com/SciTrek, most importantly, because that's where our videos do premiere first, and you get to see them without the adverts, before everyone. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.